Hello everyone, my name is Aliyah and I'm currently an English teacher in Madrid, Spain, where I teach from 3-year-olds until 6th grade. I don't currently teach in the US, so what I did for this assignment was I decided to focus on the state where I'm from, which is New York State, and the district where I did my student teaching, which was the Buffalo Public School District. And so from doing this assignment, I learned a lot about assessment in New York State and also in Buffalo Public Schools, and also about accommodations and alternative assessments. So in New York State, we have what is known as the New York State Common Core Assessments. These are assessments that are given to students in 3rd grade until 8th grade. And there are 3 assessments, 3 New York State Common Core assessments. There's one in the area of English language arts, one in the area of mathematics, and one in the area of science. All students in 3rd through 8th grade take both the ELA and the math assessment. But the students who are in 4th grade and 8th grade also take an additional assessment, which is the New York State Common Core Science Assessment. These exams are all given once a year, and they're used to determine whether students are meeting the New York State Common Core learning standards. There is also an alternative assessment, which is available for students. Students must meet 3 requirements in order to take this alternative assessment. The first requirement is that they must have a severe cognitive disability. The second requirement is that the student requires a highly specialized education program that focuses on transferring skills across natural environments. And the third requirement is that students must also require educational supports, such as assistive technology, medical services, or behavioral interventions. In Buffalo Public Schools, students in kindergarten through 5th grade take an assessment that is known as DIBELS Next. And DIBELS stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Screening. And this is basically a type of progress monitoring that is used to identify students at risk and identify areas where students might need more support. It's basically used to monitor students' overall achievement in order to help guide curriculum planning. And this exam is given 3 times a year, at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and then also towards the end of the year. As far as accommodations for both the state and district assessments, the accommodations offered are virtually the same. Some examples of some accommodations offered are teacher reading to students, the use of scribes or tape recorders, the use of tablets, computers, manipulative devices, changes in setting or timing, having tests administered over multiple days. And the use of accommodations on assessment are decided by a student's IEP team, and they cannot be decided based solely on a student's disability. So for example, if a student has ADHD, they cannot automatically be given an accommodation just because they have ADHD. The accommodation decisions must be based on an individual basis. And the accommodations must also be used in the classroom, and these accommodations must be documented on a student's IEP. So one thing that I found very interesting that I learned while doing this assignment is that in New York State, schools are going more towards offering testing on the computer, but not just for students with disabilities, for all students. So a few years ago, they started providing the ELA and the mathematics assessments to all students within certain schools. All the students within certain schools have the opportunity to take their assessment on the computer. This way it can be individualized towards each student's need. They're also going more towards allowing students extra time, or the time that they need in order to complete an exam. So now students are allowed to spend extra time on their exam whether they have a disability or not. They're allowed to have the time that they need in order to complete the exam. Another thing that I've learned is that both the state assessment and the district assessment virtually are measuring 2 different things. So the Buffalo assessment is a type of formative assessment that is used to guide teaching throughout the school year, whereas the New York State Common Core assessments are more of a type of summative assessment to see what students have learned throughout the year, not necessarily to guide students during the school year. And finally, for 2 ways that I can use this information, is first by incorporating more accommodations into my classroom when I'm teaching. There's not much use of accommodations here in Spain, so introducing the use of accommodations to students would be beneficial to both my students as well as to staff when they see how students improve with the use of these accommodations. And the second way that I could use this information is to just try to encourage other teachers in my school to implement the use of the different types of accommodations that I've learned through this assignment in order for students to achieve. So, in conclusion, I really enjoyed doing this assignment, and I learned a lot about assessments in my state and district, and also many different types of accommodations that I was not aware of that were available to students in the past. But most of all, I learned about the requirements for students to participate in the New York State Alternative Assessment. This is something that I've always been curious about in the past, so it's nice that I was able to learn what's required for students in order to participate in the New York State Alternative Assessment.